So early this morning, we got our regular quarterly earnings update for Nintendo, giving us news on various sales information. So I wanted to take a quick look at it today, go over the highlights of what is, shocking, another very strong quarter for the Nintendo Switch. Let's start with the big number. Nintendo Switch hardware sales. The Switch has now sold 68.3 million systems. Honestly, if it weren't for stock issues, that number could probably have been significantly higher, as if you tried to buy a Switch pretty much for the most of 2020. It hasn't been easy. Still very strong though, and this puts it ahead of the NES, which sold 61.9 million units total, and this makes the Switch the second best-selling home console of all time, which, in terms of home consoles, leaves only the big kahuna, the Wii, which did 101.6 million in sales. Now, I'd also point out on the handheld side, because this is a hybrid after all, and regardless, why wouldn't we want to stack the system up against everything Nintendo has put out to date? And next up in that arena is the 3DS, which that system currently sits at 75.9 million, a successful system in its own right, pulled a big 180, tremendous help to Nintendo during the Wii U era. And with the holidays approaching, I think the Switch will make good headway on overtaking that in the next couple months. And when the Switch overtakes the 3DS, it will be the 5th best-selling overall system for Nintendo of all time. So that includes everything. So soon, the Switch is going to be in the top 5 system sellers for Nintendo, again, once it passes the 3DS, with a lot of time to go. I mean, the 3DS actually just recently, they announced they're ending production on 3DS systems. The Switch is going to go on, obviously, for much longer. I will say that magic 100 million mark, to start getting into Wii territory, is far off, but next would be the Game Boy Advance, which sold 81 million units. Very doable, I think, for the Switch. The Switch will overtake that. What I'm saying is the Switch just continues to be an incredible sales success. Moving into software, the total software units for the Nintendo Switch has reached 456.49 million units, which is setting an extremely strong pace. Again, when you look at the total software sales for a lot of other consoles, you see how many, millions of hardware sales it took to get 500 million, those bigger systems close to 1 billion units in sales. So the Switch is outpacing a lot of them. There are issues there, though, in terms of the variety of games, the availability of games on especially a lot of old systems. You don't really have a lot of indie stuff in that. Now, in terms of the specific game sales for different titles, the list they have here actually accounts from April through September. Obviously, Animal Crossing Horizons is still a monster. The title is currently sitting at a little over 26 million copies sold. I mean, for a year that has been heavily criticized for lacking in major releases, definitely by me, it can't be understated how important this title has been. And still, not even close to a year yet is just incredible and really helps skew the total software sales. Super Mario 3D All-Stars has so far put up 5.21 million sales, which is honestly, I think, about to be expected for this type of game, a core Mario release, mainline releases, even though they are a collection. Your standard Mario games just always sell well. I'm actually hoping, for as much crap as I talked about this collection, I am pulling for it to take Super Mario Bros. U off the top 10 bestsellers list. I think that's at 8 million right now, and I've made it no secret that one just pisses me off so much, especially that game being on the top 10 list and Mario Maker 2 not making the cut. That's just a travesty in my opinion, and while again, I had a lot of issues with the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection, in terms of actual games, I think that's a way better package, a way better value than Super Mario Bros. U. Even with its DLC, I think that game is so mediocre, so forgettable. You never hear people again when they're talking about, my favorite Mario games. Who ever talks about Super Mario Bros. U? Nobody. And then for other newer releases, Paper Mario and the Origami King has put up 2.8 million sales to date. I don't really know how that plays in comparison to other releases in the franchise and that, because this is a game where the success of it is kind of hard to pinpoint, at least for me, because it is Mario, but this isn't a traditional Mario game by any means, so it's not expected to put up the numbers a core Mario game does. Like, I don't think you could expect this, even though this is a brand new game, to do like the numbers of the 3D All-Stars collection, even though, again, that's a collection of older games. Platforming Mario, as you can see by the top 10 list for the Switch, is always a killer. Personally, I'd say it's probably overall just like it's good. It's not a sales number that's going to really impress anybody or depress anybody. One that's actually really impressed me is Ring Fit Adventure, sitting at 5 million. That's really good. I'll say that's not something I expected, but, I'm a fatty, so what would I know about the demand for a game like that? And then Clubhouse Games has done 1.8 million so far, and Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is at 1.4, which pretty much does it for newer releases. Again, this is just for stuff that has sold over 1 million units during this time frame, which personally, if you look at it that way, how many games broke 1 million sales between April and September, I don't think it's a very good number. But as usual, those evergreen titles are still key. Tons of stuff from launch through now, still putting up millions of sales. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, chalking up another 4.2 million. The third highest selling game during this period. I mean, think about that. And that's a port of a Wii U game that was basically a launch game. In terms of being a sales powerhouse, it doesn't get much better than that. But yeah, all your usual suspects, your Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, all still putting up over 1 million more sales, really helps in terms of padding out that total sales number. Again, not much for those of us who already bought the games, who have been supporting the Switch from day one, but it does seem regularly as new people are coming into the Switch family, they're still filling out their library with all these older core titles, which is great. And then, I've got to mention it, mobile games, no surprise, still bringing in stupid amounts of money, continuing to grow also at a very rapid rate. They did 26 billion yen during this period and almost 33% growth from the same period last year. It's probably been helped with the addition of Mario Kart Tour, the game I called the worst kart racing game I've ever played. So that's just great. You're always excited to hear that trash games are doing billions of yen in sales. But again, I can't blame Nintendo, any of these game companies really, for capitalizing on these people. And if you just look at the overall numbers, again, the hardware, software sales in that, compared to the same time period, the same quarters last year, yeah, those numbers just get destroyed in just about every way. So Nintendo has to be very happy at the end of the day of the overall sales they've been doing. And then we've got a section I've been talking a lot of smack about throughout this year, the part where they're like games to look forward to. It's only got through December, and this is the Japanese stuff, so you may see some stuff that's on here that isn't coming out in the West, or at least not in this time period. But this was much better than the last update that had just a few games on it. This at least has a lot more stuff on it. We've got big stuff like Age of Calamity, Immortal, and a lot of these games are actually out already. And some just really seem like grasping at straws to pad out this list. I'm looking at some of these games. A lot of the titles are in Moon language, but based off the box art, I have no idea what they are. But what's nice is that even though this is through December, we know we've got some big stuff coming next year that has already been slated, like Monster Hunter Rise, Super Mario 3D World, SMT5. I think we are positioned much, much better at this point in 2020 than we were in 2019 heading into 2020. And I think it's very safe to assume they've got some big announcements saved for even the early part of 2021. So many outliers in terms of games that have been announced for quite a while now that we haven't heard updates on. Of course, Breath of the Wild 2 and Prime 4 waiting in the wings. Both of those franchises, don't forget, also have a similar anniversary like Mario had this year. So we could be getting some sort of anniversary collection type release for them. Hopefully a Metroid Prime Trilogy collection. I mean, at this point, now Suda has given us No More Heroes 1 and 2 on the Switch. If he can do that, Nintendo, how can you not hook us up with the Prime Trilogy? It's just, I've been waiting for that since day one. It's got to happen. 2021's got to happen. But yeah, I think all things considered with COVID in that, Nintendo is probably very happy with how things are going in terms of sales. As we've been talking about pretty much all year, Animal Crossing was that beastly clutch release. the situation it was in with the state of the world probably helped them, if anything, there. People, myself included, have said Animal Crossing was probably one of the best timed releases in really the history of gaming. And of course, those evergreen titles pick up a lot of the slack when you don't have a lot of big stuff. We've still got Age of Calamity to drop to close out 2020, and I do believe, I've said this in a bunch of past videos, that 2021 I'm already thinking will be one of the best years for the Switch, for Nintendo perhaps as well, and not to mention the possibility of new hardware, which I think is extremely likely at this point to drop next year. Depending on how significant of an upgrade it is, that could result in a major shift in what we get in terms of third-party releases on the platform. Yeah, I think it's going to be a big year and will make up for the lackluster year we had in terms of new releases in 2020. But sales-wise, they're doing a good job. I assume they'll continue that success through the holidays, and we'll be learning early next year about how well that went for them. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on this latest Nintendo financial report in the comments. How do you feel about the sales figures, and did anything surprise you? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion on Nintendo's latest financial data. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and if you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter, @JohnnyZakari, and join my Discord, ChiGuy and Friends, link to both in the description below, and as always, thanks for watching.